I was not born into peace. The world of my childhood was a land divided, carved into warring states that clawed at one another like beasts. Kingdom against kingdom, betrayal against betrayal, blood spilled endlessly across the soil of China. In such a world there was no safety, no certainty. Power was fragile, honor was fleeting, and survival demanded more than strength of arms, it demanded vision. From an early age I saw the chaos for what it was, a sickness that could not be endured forever. I understood that only a single will, firm and unyielding, could bring an end to the endless strife. As ruler of Qin, I began my rise not with comfort or ease but with the weight of destiny pressing against me. Every rival state stood as an obstacle, each with its armies, its ambitions, its pride. To face them required more than courage, it required a mind that never wavered, a spirit that never doubted. I gathered strength where others faltered. I built an army disciplined beyond any rival, an army not of scattered fighters but of a unified force that could crush resistance swiftly and decisively. One by one, the states fell, not by chance but by relentless will and unbroken strategy. With each conquest, I was not merely expanding borders. I was laying the foundation for something far greater. I was ending the centuries of division that had chained the people to fear. To unify the land was not simply ambition, it was necessity. Without unity, there could be no lasting peace, no prosperity, no greatness worthy of the vastness of China. The warlords and kings who clung to their small domains could not see beyond their pride, but I saw the shape of a nation yet to be born. The path was not easy. I faced conspiracies, betrayals, and resistance that would have broken lesser men. But I did not turn aside, I did not doubt. Every obstacle became a stepping stone, every enemy a lesson in endurance. For I knew that to retreat even once was to abandon the dream of a unified land forever. And so I pressed forward without pause, without mercy, until the last rival bent or broke before me. When at last the wars ended and the banners of Qin rose over all under heaven, I stood not only as a conqueror but as the first emperor. The vision I had carried since youth was made flesh. The divided world had been bound together, not by chance but by unyielding determination and the strength to see it through. I rose because I would not accept chaos as destiny. I rose because I saw unity where others saw only division. To unite the land was only the first step. Conquest binds territory, but it does not bind people. A kingdom that stretches across mountains and rivers cannot survive on force alone. If every region clings to its own measures, its own coins, its own scripts, then unity is nothing more than an illusion. I saw clearly that to forge a nation I had to bind not just land but the very fabric of daily life. Power could not remain scattered among old customs and divided laws. It had to be drawn together into a single order, one that would outlast the sword. The first task was the law. Chaos thrives where laws are unclear, where one state judges differently from the next. Such confusion breeds weakness. I swept aside the patchwork of traditions and decrees, replacing them with one code, strict and unbending, that applied to all under heaven. In this way the people understood that justice was no longer the whim of local lords but the command of the empire. Order was no longer fragile, it became the spine upon which unity stood. But law alone was not enough. Trade, travel, and communication demanded common ground. In one region a cart might roll on wheels of one width, in another on a different size entirely, making the roads useless between them. I decreed a single standard for axles, for weights, for measures, so that commerce could flow without barrier. Coins of countless shapes and metals gave way to one currency, simple and enduring, accepted in every marketplace of the empire. Even the written word, fractured by countless scripts, was unified under a single form. With this, the people could finally read and understand one another across vast distances, their voices connected as they had never been before. These reforms were more than symbols. They were the glue that held together what conquest had won. Soldiers and merchants, farmers and scholars all became part of a single system, serving not their province alone but the empire as a whole. Resistance did not vanish overnight, but each decree tightened the bond, each standard erased division. Slowly the people began to see themselves not as subjects of rival states, but as citizens of one realm, living beneath one heaven, ruled by one throne. Centralization was not a choice born of vanity, it was survival. Without it, the land would have splintered again as it had countless times before. With it, the empire could stand strong, bound not only by the sword but by the order of daily life itself. I did not seek unity for a season. I sought to carve it into the bones of the nation so that even time itself would struggle to undo it. Greatness carries with it a shadow, and within that shadow lies fear. To rule a land as vast as mine was to invite both reverence and resentment. I built walls higher than mountains, armies stronger than any that had come before, and monuments carved from stone to endure beyond memory. Yet even as the empire rose in glory, whispers of betrayal and plots against my life moved like serpents in the grass. I trusted few, for in the hearts of men I saw ambition, envy, and treachery waiting to strike. The crown brought power, but it also demanded constant vigilance. My hand was firm and some called it harsh. Dissent could not be tolerated, for a single crack left unchecked becomes a fracture that shatters stone. The people feared my punishments, but fear also preserved order. To rule gently in times of chaos is to lose everything. To preserve unity, I wielded discipline as surely as I once wielded the sword. I silenced those who spread confusion, I burned words that threatened division, and I made clear that there was only one path forward, the path of the empire. Many judged these acts as cruelty, but I saw them as necessity. To allow weakness would be to betray the very dream I had fought to bring to life. Yet even I, who bent kingdoms to my will, could not escape the burden of mortality. The thought of death was not only the end of my body, it was the risk that my vision, the unity I carved with blood and stone, would crumble after I was gone. This was the fear that pressed most heavily upon me, heavier than armies, heavier than walls. To accept death was to risk the undoing of everything I had built, so I sought to master it as I had mastered men. I searched for elixirs, for secrets of alchemy, for paths that might grant me the eternity needed to guard the empire forever. My quest for immortality was not for myself alone, it was for the permanence of the order I had created. Still, the paradox remained. I built the strongest walls the world had ever seen, yet within those walls I could never fully escape suspicion. I commanded legions without number, yet I could not command time. The monuments of stone and earth promised immortality, yet my own body reminded me of its frailty with each passing year. The higher I rose, the more fiercely I fought against the one enemy no man can conquer. Power and fear walked side by side with me, shaping every decision, every decree, every step I took. My reign was one of strength, but also one of shadows, for greatness and fear are bound together, and one cannot exist without the other. I ruled an empire, yet I was haunted by the truth that no empire can shield its master from death. When I left the world of princes and warlords behind, I did not simply seize a throne, I carved a new path for all under heaven. The dynasty I forged was short, yet its mark was carved deeper than stone. For though time swept away the house of Qin, the vision I laid down became the foundation upon which centuries of rulers would build. My empire was not only a collection of cities and walls, it was an idea, and ideas endure longer than monuments. The walls I commanded to rise were not only to shield against enemies beyond the frontier. They were symbols of unity, stretching across mountains and deserts, binding distant lands into one. Though the wall itself was built by countless hands, it bore the weight of a single will, the will to protect, to guard, to preserve what had been won. It was a declaration to the world that China was not a patchwork of scattered kingdoms, but a realm that could hold together against all who threatened it. Laws, the measures, the currency, the script, all these reforms became threads woven into the fabric of a nation that outlived me. Long after my voice fell silent, merchants still weighed their goods with the measures I decreed, soldiers still marched in step to the discipline I demanded, and scholars still wrote with the characters I unified. Even when new dynasties rose, they did not cast aside what I had established. They built upon it layer upon layer, until the shape of China itself bore my imprint. Yet legacy is not only found in what endures, it is also shaped by what others choose to remember. Some have called me a tyrant, a ruler of fear and severity, one who crushed dissent and demanded absolute obedience. Others have named me a visionary, a leader who ended centuries of war and gave the people a chance at stability. In truth, I was both. To forge unity from chaos requires iron, not silk. To end centuries of bloodshed requires decisions that the weak cannot make. My rule was not gentle, but it was lasting. I did not seek glory that faded like the songs of wandering poets. I sought to leave behind a structure strong enough to resist the erosion of time. And though my body turned to dust, the empire I shaped became the root from which future generations drew their strength. Even those who cursed my name could not erase what I had given them, for my vision was not for a season, it was for eternity. I may not have conquered death, but I conquered time in another way. My legacy became a foundation that even centuries could not undo.